Going live now. Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm already starting a bit earlier as usual. I think at this point I should just generally start the stream earlier. But I'm also gonna hold on. I'm also gonna start the music. There we go. Just preparing everything. And then also, just to be sure, I'm going to enable the screencast keys add-on early. And it's huge. Okay. It's a bit overkill. Okay. Wait, I can adjust the line thickness? Why do I only notice that now? To be honest, I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm actually going to use that line thickness. But anyway, welcome everyone. So I did a little bit of work in between streams, basically just for one thing. So I've been shading the character now in this resting pose for such a long time, and this is not where I want to test him. Like in what pose I want to test him. I also want to see how does he look like if he's looking more natural. So, I mean, something that was really beneficial to have is like the closed eyes, the open mouth. I can check a bit more, like especially for inner mouth shading, which I still need to do, but also the eyelids. I can just get a better view of how this is supposed to look like. But what I now added to the model is an actual pose. So this is the pose that I used for the original sculpt. If I can put it in here. Yeah, this is the one. He's right now intersecting a bit with with the final model. I can fix that. Let me just push him a bit further to the back. Over there. That's better. So I tried to copy this pose as much as possible from the original meshes, and I'm going to get a bit into how I did that because it was not that easy. But first, let me just post this comment. If anyone has any questions at any point, they can just pin me, and I can see it more easily. Okay, so if we look at the wireframe, you can see that this and this is not the same. This is the original sculpt where I did like a really crappy topology just to be able to subdivide it and add more resolution to it. Like you can really see it with the ear. And this is the final retopology. So the way to copy this pose was actually not that easy, because if I am, hold on, I excluded one of the collections over here, which is this one. So I had this object lying around, but it was just the pure sculpt. Like it had just, it was just this pose, no shape keys, nothing. I had no reference to the original T pose. So getting from this, which is basically its own complete independent meshes with its own topology, its own pose, with no reference to the original, to this one, what I had to do is I had to go back a few versions into the past to find the original T-pose of the sculpt, and then to add a shape key to it. So I was able to, if I just remove this modifier for a moment. So I was able to get this original T-pose of the sculpt and then transfer the shape key of the post sculpt onto it. And all I needed was really just the body. This is the bare essentials. Then I added a triangulate modifier, just because apparently that helps with the next step. And I had this at the exact same spot as the new retopology. So if I switch back and forth between this, they are in the exact same position. And I was able to put a surface deform modifier on this, which essentially just lets you pick another object and as the target, and then bind the surfaces to the surfaces of the other object. So essentially it's like, look at that mesh, and if it moves, follow it exactly. So with that, I was able to basically copy the pose over. I was able to put this guy into a T-pose, have the original sculpt in a T-pose, bind it to the original sculpt, and then just enable the modifier. And I had it, and I applied this as a modifier over here. So this is the, as a shape key over here. So this is the original T-pose, and this is the result of the modifier. So I was able to just apply this as a shape key, and now I have it here. And I did that for every object. I was able to even bind the clothing objects, the shirt, the pants, the shoes. I was able to bind them to the body and then get the pose back. I just had to afterwards, like if I look at this, like this is the result of the modifier, and then I was able to sculpt over it a bit more to get to do some more fixes and adjustments, but then also, for example, to sculpt an expression back on top to match this as much as possible with the original one. So now, if I go into material view, I can have a direct comparison between what I originally sculpted with basically what I left off before, what I had before I started the streams, and now what I have currently. And I think this is like a really striking comparison. I was glad that I was able to just copy the pose over, basically. It's not perfect, but it works perfectly well for this pre-visualization, essentially. So there's still plenty to do, but I wanted to get this done as fast as possible. And next I'm gonna actually get into making a turntable setup with lighting, and which something that I can then render out to get some a really good look at the model and its materials in cycles, because that takes a bit of time to render. I already see some first comments. Question on how's it going? Yeah, it's going really good. But although I'm hoping that that I can get this done in as minimum amount of streams as possible, because at this point it's really just about fine tweaking. Another comment: how much time does it take to make an entire character from scratch? Well, that depends on the style and how much effort you want to put into it, because you can spend a year and a half on a character. Like it gets pretty insane. It depends on how much time you have available. It's really hard to tell. But I think when I was originally sculpting the character, I did it within like a week or two. But that's also because I was basically retracing a lot of the steps I did for Rain. Wait, hold on. The first character of the lineup over here. So I was able to just kind of go through the same motions and do all the same steps, and then in a relatively minimum amount of time I had this sculpt basically done. But now, since I'm only streaming like 2 hours or 1.5 hours to 2 hours each week, it took quite a bit of time to get this far. So now I'm actually going to exclude this, and I want to focus on the turntable. I already actually had a turntable set up over here ready. I think I even did this. I might have even done this live. But I want to tweak this a bit more. I also see another comment. a direct question. Is there a way to apply as a shape key? Yes. You can, on any of your modifiers, that is a deformation modifier, not a constructive modifier. I think that's the name. Like a subdivision surface modifier, that's a constructive modifier because it's actually changing the topology of the object. These you can't apply as a shape key. But if you have something like, for example, let's just do a simple deform. Like, where is it? Where is it? A simple deform, like, which is basically just like skewing or bending the object. With these deformation modifiers, like, you just basically have them all in this column. In this dropdown, you can apply them as a shape key, or just save them as a shape key, which is basically the same thing, only that you get to keep the modifier. So if I now do this, you can see that there's a simple deform shape key, and it's exactly that shape. So this is how I got this surface deform shape key over here. So yeah, there's also the question, how did you design your character? Well, I have some more videos on the cloud on this, like an entire course essentially where I go into more detail, but this is like very much based on the experience on what I did for the open movie on Spring, called Spring, and then also now on Sprite Fright, the latest Blender open movie, on how we do our character design and character creation workflow. So starting with like sketches and the general concepts, and then translating that into 3D and developing it further, doing testing to stress test the design and the appeal of it and how much it could actually work for animation. That's where the expression tests come in, the expression sculpts that I did. And also this pose sculpt, which I copied over now for the retopology. And then going into the other steps, like doing the retopology, doing the UVs. But that's more the technical execution of essentially creating the assets. That's no longer really about... I don't think that's about the design that you're asking. I also see another comment. Can you please show me the cloth stitches node? Ooh. Sure thing. Well, I'm just going to put it on screen and just see how well that works. So this is really just with these extra stitches, which were done by basically creating UVs that will just kind of guide these. I had an entire stream on this, but hold on. So I have the seams over here. So if I just control click on this, you can see this is where the stitches come in. So as a mask, they're over here. And this is the node network. I hope we're going to publish this soon, but like, because this is all procedural, it's a bit more complicated, but essentially you could just as well just make a texture, like a square on a white square on a black background, and use that as an input. The important thing really is just that, like, if I switch over to the UV editing workspace, I can maybe show this a bit better, that you have these UVs that are really just like, imagine that there is like there's a texture with a tiny white stitch shape, or like a bunch of different stitch shapes over here at the very bottom of this 1x1 UV space. And then I unwrapped these parts over here and laid them out over here completely horizontally flat, so that the stitches would appear exactly on that spot. Let's see if I can actually... Can I actually find this? Hold on. I'm actually on the wrong UV layer. There we go. There we go. There we go. Exactly. So it's this selection over here that I unwrap this way, and exactly where you see these red dotted lines, that's where the stitches are going to appear. And if I move this up and down, it's really just about, I mean, a lot of people do this, where they, instead of trying to like use stencils or like trying to texture paint patterns onto the model that way, which is a very regular approach, like a very standard approach for other software, especially texturing programs. In Blender, what you can just do is create a new set of UVs, which then defines where these patterns or textures are going to be projected onto. So in this way, I basically, like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. It's maybe a bit too complicated to explain, but I hope I get the point across, sorry. I also see another comment, and the tagging didn't quite work. An entire year to make a character, that's a lot of work and dedication. How does a team make a character? Like someone designs different parts of the character. Yeah, you can split up the workload among different people. Typically, even like in our studio, at the Blender studio, where we are like a lot of generalists, or like we can do many different tasks. We, especially now for Sprite Fright, we split it up a lot. So there was a production designer who created the original sketches, or like the original design of the character, the shape language, the colors, who are these characters. Then we had a concept artist, and also then me as a 3D artist, as a character artist, translating that and interpreting that design further into like an actual 3D design. And then that just goes even further into then retopology, which is its own step, and shading and texturing. You can do everything by yourself, but it's nice to split up the work for efficiency's sake. That helped us a lot to just keep going and keep working, and not have one person being stuck at making characters for an eternity. Anyway, there are some more questions. I have a question. What's a good way to make a Blender Open Movie? Ooh, that's a big one. But you can visit the Blender Cloud. There's actually a bunch of articles right now on how we manage our pipeline, what tools we use, production add-ons that help us like create shots and make contact sheets for our render charts and all that stuff. So there's like a lot to it, and we try to share a lot of that right now. Although it's a bit specific. It's a bit all over the place sometimes, but it's really good content. Anyway, last time I've kind of left. Actually, wait. I kind of got distracted. I wanted to continue with the turntable setup. So I already have a turntable, which is essentially like just this empty on the ground, which where I animated the Z rotation from frame 1, where it's on 0, to frame 101, where it's on 360 degrees. And I parented a camera to this. So it's like slowly rotating around. And I made that animation constant with vector handles, so that there's no ease in or ease out. But now what I would like to do is I would like to have this turntable continue for another 100 frames, ideally. Actually, I'm going to change that to another 300 frames. Okay. So if I let's try this. So if I go to the graph editor, we can see that there's the Z rotation over here, and it just stops over here. But if I select this and press T, I think I'm gonna have to try it, and press linear. I think then, no, that doesn't work. Hold on. channel. There is a way of keeping the animation going. But I can't quite remember what it was called. Worst case scenario, I'm gonna do it by hand, but it would be nice to actually just do it. Someone says Shift E. That might actually be it. Shift E and then make cyclic. Exactly. So that's actually a modifier. So is it? No, that's not what I want. Constant? No. Linear? That's it. Linear extrapolation. So that just makes it continue. Like instead of the animation stopping over here, it just looks at what the animation would realistically be doing if it just continues. Thanks a lot. So now the turntable will just keep going for another 3 rounds and will end on frame 400. Well, that's where I'm going to stop rendering. It actually ends on frame 401. That's when it returns to the original position. And the reason why I stop rendering, why I stop the why I have the end frame on 400 is because then it continues again at frame 1, and then it's going to be seamless. So from frame 400 to frame 1, I would like to... Well, actually, it doesn't quite matter because... Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to start out in pose that it... Let's see. Actually, I think I'm gonna do it another way. Actually, I changed my mind. Okay, I'm gonna hide all of these channels. I only need this one. And I want to duplicate this over. There we go. And on frame 201, I want this to start again. Okay. What I want is that it rotates one time all the way around, then it stops, but instead the lighting setup starts rotating 360 degrees one time around, and then it starts to rotate again, but by that point, let's see, I have a shape key over here for surface deform. I'm going to key this. On 201, I'm going to set it to 0. And this will reset the pose on all the objects, except for the eyes right now. For that, I need to do it manually by actually just kind of copying all of those keyframes. Let's see. See, and there we go. Perfect. Okay, so now I have it set up so it rotates one time around. For the second turn, the lighting setup is going to rotate. Then it's going to snap into the T-pose and rotate around. And then for the last turn, it's going to again rotate the lighting setup. And that should be everything I need. And then I can render this out with different lighting scenarios. That's the idea. And that's going to take a lot of time, and I'm going to do that in cycles. So this is not something I will show off in the stream. If anything, I'm going to post about it later on online. But one of the things I would like to do is I'm going to add, let's see, I'm going to add an empty over here. And I'm just going to make this look like a cube. So you can add different empty shapes. In here, I could change the size. There's also a shortcut for that. I think it's Shift W, but I have a custom menu for that where I can just like drag and drop this, like drag this. But yeah, I think it's Shift W. Anyway, what I can now do is I want to parent all of these objects of the character, come on, onto this empty. And I'm going to hold down Shift for that to empty, to parent it from the outliner, and hold down Alt in order to keep the transforms. So now if I move this empty, I can just move the entire character. And the reason why I'm doing that is because over here, it's in the original position. It's perfect. So I'm going to just like keyframe the location, rotation, scale of this empty. And now once the turntable starts, the whole animation and rendering starts on frame 1, I can just move this one around a bit more. So first I want to center the character a bit more over here. I can adjust that easily with the empty now instead of like moving the objects directly. Perfect. And now I'm just going to press dot and set the pivot to the 3D cursor, which is in the center of the world. I can also change it up here. And then I can rotate the character along the Z-axis a bit more so that I have a nice starting frame. I'm also going to change the axis to global. I'm going to put it in like here. Let's see. Actually, I don't care too much about the... Yeah. I don't care too much about where he stands. If he stands in the center, I care about if his head is rotating a lot or a little. Okay, and for that, I'm actually going to just like split this real quick. Hide all of this stuff. Like that. And then do this. Okay, now it's looking better, but still not perfect. I want his head to be really centered. Come on. Yes. So this is perfect. Okay. Now. Let's do some more stuff. So, I actually have no environment lighting right now. I actually still need to create one. Let's actually do that now. So I go to shading. I already have the turntable setup complete. Perfect. And by the way, I parented two different cameras to the turntable setup, so I can have a camera that's just showing the total, like all of the character, and then one that's only showing the head. Although, to be honest, the camera for the head could be a bit lower, like looking from him a bit more from below. but I'm going to do that later. First, I'm going to switch this to scene world and scene lights. Let's see. I actually had a lighting setup already. Okay, this is fine. So these lights there we go. I'm going to also parent them to an empty. And starting at the frame 101, I'm going to animate them. Okay. 360 degrees. Perfect. And the same thing over here. Now there's something I need to do, and that is I displaced the position of snow a bit over here for the pose, but I don't want to have that for his resting pose over here, his T pose. So in between these frames, I want him to snap back. There we go. Like that. Then he turns with the lighting setup, and then the lighting setup turns for the next 100 frames. That's it. Now the only thing that's missing is the world shader. I already see another comment. Isn't it hard to work on a computer for so long? Not necessarily. I mean, if you have a pretty comfortable chair and ergonomic working posture and equipment, then it's fine. And then there's another question. Is there any way to walk in front of the camera? Am I asking too many questions? It's not. No, it's no problem. But I don't think I'm quite understanding the question. I mean, you can look at the camera from outside. Like I can snap in and out of the camera. But not sure what you mean. Let's see. Anyway, for the environment light, right now it's really just this. It's not a lot, it's really just a gray background. And ideally, I would like to have, files. I would like to have an HDRI for this. And I wonder if I do have some. Let's see, maps, HDRI. I do, perfect. I'm just gonna pick one of these just as a temporary thing. So I get the forest EXR and I plug them into the background. And it doesn't quite work because it actually imported it as an image texture and not an environment texture. That's weird. EXR forest. There we go. That's better. So if I plug this in, that's it. now I actually have this forest texture, which is like a default HDRI from Blender plugged in. It's going to use the exactly the correct coordinates by default, but if I press Ctrl T over here, it should, yeah. Now it's still using the same ones, but with this mapping node, I can rotate it. There we go. And that's what I want to do. But I don't want this ugly background image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the background shader over here. And with Control-Shift right-click, I can mix them. And I want to mix them based on, if I pick light path, that node, is camera ray, so is it visible from the camera? If yes, then it's going to use this one. If no, then it's going to use this one. And what that does, if I switch this around, is the camera is going to see this shader over here, which is really just a gray color, but the model is still being lit by this EXR HDMI. So now I have this kind of split. There we go. It's a really neat trick that I'm basically always using. Also, by the way, for now, I want to bring back some viewport sampling in Eevee. I set it always to 1 when I'm texture painting, but right now it's like, I want to have this really looking good. So now I have this. So let's say I want to actually, I still have access to all the nodes over here. I want to actually animate this. So I still have the mapping node over here, and I can drag this, and it's actually going to rotate the lighting setup. You can see it right here. In the turntable right now, I have this. There's the pose, the character is rotating, and then the lighting setup is rotating. But if I'm only using the HDRI, then nothing is happening. So I need to animate it. So in this case, I'm going to key the rotation of the mapping node. And on the frame 201, I'm going to set it to -360. And then the only thing I need to adjust is what is this? I'm going to select all of them and set them to, with V, to vector. And that should at least result in a better animation. So yeah, same thing over here. Can I somehow isolate this? I guess not. Well, anyway. Now I just need to do the same thing of yeah, just one frame later, it needs to be back here. Actually, I think that's not right. Yeah, that's not correct. It should be on, what is it? -3.6. Okay, I need to fix that with the other ones as well. Come on. So hard to select the right ones. Now I can duplicate this over and do the same thing over here. Right over here. It's going to start to rotate the lighting setup instead. Yes. Perfect. I see a comment. Can you not just stay at minus 360 degrees? And I think you're right. I could do that. Let's say I'm going to do that. I'm going to stay there until the frame 300. I think that's a better solution. You're actually totally correct. Let's see. I can basically do the same thing over here. And then also with the turntable, like, also I want to click on Normalize. I don't think any animator likes to use Normalize, but I actually find it really helpful. Because then all the, no matter, then the, the height of the points of the curves, it's not going to relate to the absolute values anymore, but it's just relative. It's just from the minimum value to the highest value. It's just all of them are going to cap at the same points, and then I just don't need to zoom in and out constantly anymore. Let's see. There's actually also still the turntable which does this. Okay, I'm almost done. And I mean, I'm not going to use this setup a lot now during the stream, but at the end of the stream, I'm going to basically just render this out. Let's see. There's the timeline. So now, first everything rotates, then only the light rotates. Both the hand-placed lights and the HDRI, like that. Then it does the same thing for the T-pose. And if I set a rendering border over here, let's say right here. Actually, let's just skip the arms, and I hit render. Actually, let's just save. I will be able to see that the oh, still haven't switched this. No, it's using the scene world. There we go. Yeah, and it's actually doing it. Perfect. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, that means I can now continue. I'm going to leave it mostly on frame 1. So let's just look at my to-do list. I have still a bunch of things to do. Well, one of them is definitely to get the colors right, but I think I'm like the general colors of the hair, the skin, the eyebrows. There's like some fine tweaking that I still want to do. If I switch over here, like the inner mouth still needs some shading. But I think I'm just gonna continue with the hair for now. And let's just do that in pose. Screw it. Also, this I still need to texture over here. I want to actually get rid of this object. Man, that's gonna be a lot of work. Or I need to figure out how it looks the best. First, though, I'm gonna separate all of these objects based on loose parts. So now I have these all as their own thing. Let's just switch to shading. There we go. I want to have this isolated. Now I did some test texturing over here, but I'm not really happy with it, how it looks. So I'm gonna switch to texture paint mode, and I'm just gonna paint over this. Let's just get rid of it. But the principle is still the same. I want to have this sort of locked hair, but braided, sort of, to have it a bit more stylized, a bit less high detail. So yeah, I'm gonna save. I also see some more questions. Mind if I make a trailer for Sprite Fright? I got some clips from the Sprite Fright Weeklies video that I think there are enough clips to put together to make the trailer. If you want to, sure. I mean, the great thing about the Blender Open movies is they're open. It's all Creative Commons, so you can recut it. You can do whatever you want with it. I think we won't really get to make a trailer because we're instead just going to release the movie. And that's going to happen next month. So there's no real need for a trailer. We are going to publish teaser clips though, just in general, a bit of promotion. There's another question. I remember when you were making rain, you made a lot of rain heads. Will you make more designs of snow too? Oh, you mean the original concept sculpts? Yes, I did a lot of different head variations there, but I didn't do that for snow. I instead made some drawings and some direct 2D concept art, and that really made sure that I get his look down. Anyway, let's just continue with this. So I have Eevee over here. I'm gonna kill the roughness for now. And I really just want to see the anisotropy over here. Like that. I think that's good. Okay. Now I'm gonna change a bit how the fall off works. So I'm gonna not use the normal fall off. And what that does is it should just in addition to another setting that I need to find, the Occlude and Backface culling. I'm going to turn these two off, and that means I can just make a stroke and it's just going to go right through the entire object. You can see it right here. So now if I do this, it's going nice through the entire thing. So now I can just kind of do this. And especially by overlapping some of these strokes, I really get that effect that I want. Let's see. But I think right now it's a bit too strong. Let's actually try to darken this again a bit. Actually, I'm gonna undo. maybe it's actually good the way I did it, to be honest. I'm gonna figure this out now. Maybe some smooth stroke will help as well. Like that. Well, it's a subtle effect, but it kind of works. There's another question. Instead of removing the hair, can't you make it in such a way that the user will decide to keep it or not? Maybe. I mean, probably a good way of dealing with this is at least having it as an animation reference. So that the animators can see a different version of the objects. And that will make it nicer. Maybe that's the right way to go about this. Okay, I'm gonna bring back the roughness over here if I toggle this on and off. Let's see. So by default the hair is kind of rough. And then wherever I paint it on the streaks, it's going to get a bit more shiny. That's essentially what I want to get here. But then not just like this, I should also add a Fresnel effect to this. So let's just input a Fresnel. Let's see. A Fresnel and plug this into a math range. Just because that's gonna... It's basically the same as a color ramp, but here it's a bit nicer for values that are not just strictly going from 0 to 1. And then I can mix these two together. And I would like to, let's see. Yeah, based on this, I'm gonna multiply like that, kinda. So what I want is that, yeah, if I plug this into the roughness, and hopefully this will limit the shine a bit more to what we're seeing straight ahead. So yeah, this extra shine over here is just, oh, oops. I need this to put this to add, and then add white to it. Yeah. And I need to clamp this, because I think it's breaking the shader right now. If I don't clamp this. So now, it's actually getting, ooh, less shiny towards the edges. Just a tiny touch. So yeah, I think this helps. I'm gonna also save this texture now a bit more regularly. Okay, almost done. And I think I can get a bit more fast and loose now with this. Okay, I'm gonna save this. Let's just see how it looks like in comparison with the other clumps. Better. Okay, now how does this look like in comparison to rain? Let's just do it like... Because I think overall the hair is still much shinier than her hair. Let's see. Like that. So I can make it a bit more subtle. But it has the right effect. I think it even looks better than on rain, but here I still use like a really bad fake anisotropy. In cycles it looks better. But this is like kind of the effect. It's like actually something similar that you would see in Overwatch. It's like where I also got a bit inspired by, because they have this fake anisotropy effect to get these cartoony highlights. And for me, it's not as cartoony. It's not meant to be cartoony, but I want it to be to have kind of the effect of extra detail for the hair without looking too realistic, without adding a lot of bump and additional strand detail. I want it to look like a bit brush strokey, which is not meant to look like an illustration. It's just meant to make it look simpler. So now I'm going to basically do this for all the different hair clumps. There we go. And if there's any questions about how this works, I can still answer any of them. Don't worry about it. Just let me know. And also, actually, I'm gonna put an input here, RGB. I'm gonna copy the color and plug this in. Because what I can now do is if I mute this connection by holding down, by holding down Control and Alt and then right click drag, I can mute the connection. And then I can set this one to just pure black. And I'm also going to mute the connection for the roughness. And I'm gonna set this to be a bit higher, maybe? Yeah, just so I can see that shine a bit more. Yeah. So now if I brush stroke over this, should be able to see it a bit better, maybe. Not necessarily with the roughness, to be honest. No, I shouldn't do that. There we go. Okay, it's kind of working. There we go. Let's go back. Nice. Yeah, actually kind of works. The one thing that I would like to do though is that texture that I'm painting. I would like to also plug this into the color to some extent. So let's just add a mix RGB. I'm gonna plug this in as well. And based on this, I'm gonna mix this a bit with a different color. Maybe this makes a bit of a difference. It does. I actually kind of like it. Awesome. Are there any more questions? When will this character be available for us? I think I'm getting kind of close to finishing him. It's really just about fine-tuning the shaders, and to be honest, I would rather do this, like, speed it up, not just work on the character during the live streams now, but actually also in between live streams. And then I can wrap this up a bit faster. So soon, soonish. I don't have a specific date yet. But at least the work in progress files, I want to add them to the Blender Cloud soon, so you can download them there if you have an account. But the final rigged character, that's gonna, yeah, that's maybe gonna take a bit more time. Perfect. This is kind of coming together. Oh, and then I can just switch to this. By the way, there's a shortcut to switch between objects immediately. And I do this for basically every mode right now. It's like, for me, it has like a turquoise effect, but for you it would be orange. It's right now the shortcut is Alt-Q if you're using 3.0, at least the alpha. But I think right now in the latest release it's on, I think it's on D, but I'm not sure. You can try either one of these shortcuts. Really love this shortcut. There we go. Some more questions. Is Cloudfreak available to everyone? Yes. It's on GitHub, but it's also on the Blender Cloud, I think. You can find it at multiple places, definitely. I also see some older questions. What's the next stream gonna be about? I don't know, to be honest, because once I'm done with Snow, I might actually take a bit of a break from streaming and actually spend more time on making tutorials again. Because once the movie project is done, there's going to be a bit of time for that. And I would love to make some tutorials that I have on my to-do list for a while. There's another question. I have a question to you. Have to go to college for your career? No. I did an apprenticeship for 3 years, but that's basically all of the education I got in terms of this career path. Everything else I just kind of like learned by myself over the years. Another comment, will you be streaming anything when you're done with Snow, or will someone else take over? It would be nice if someone else takes over, if there's more streams from different people, but probably it's going to end up, there's going to be streams whenever someone is interested in doing them. I did it pretty regularly right now, but that's maybe not going to stay that way. So it's more of an on and off thing. Which I think is actually kind of would be better. There's also a comment by Falk. It's limited to sculpt mode though. Ah, yes. In 2.93 right now, it is only for sculpt mode, but on 3.0 it will be available on every object type and every mode. So that's gonna be nice. I also see the question, when did you start with Blender? It was like 10 years ago. Like a bit more than 10 years ago. It's the first time I opened Blender, but yeah. It's been a while. I think the first version I opened was actually 2.47, 2.48, something like that. Now, I would like to review the roughness again, because I think I could tweak this a bit more. It's very shiny. Let's actually put this to a test in cycles. So if I render in cycles, I get to see... Oh, right. Still need to do some adjustments. So there's the hair streaks. How did I do it over here? It's anisotropic rotation, right. That's how I did it in cycles. I use a tangent node with a separate UV map to define the default direction, and then I plug this into the anisotropy rotation, and then I should be able to see hold on. Oh, right. Now it works. And it's way too much in cycles. Okay, that means I need to, let's just do a color ramp here. I need to kind of tone this down. I'm just going to do that by toning down the white values over here. want to have this a bit more subtle. Let's see. And then the roughness should also be the same over here. So I'm gonna plug this into the... Oh wait, no, it's not yet. So let's just plug this into the roughness. It's actually a bit of a strange decision that I'm doing here. That it's getting more rough the more the Fresnel gets in. So... yeah, that's a bit of a weird decision. It's... Hold on. Yeah, anisotropic is set to 1. I think for now I'm just going to continue a bit more with Eevee. Which is fine. I think the hair is just overall a bit too shiny. Like I can just tone it down a bit. Oh, and oh shit. Is it actually... What are those values? How can I easily check? Because I think this is actually... No, it's already multiplying it. It's good. Because it shouldn't be on a scale from 0 to 1. It should be on a scale of 0 to 0.5. Anyway, I'm gonna texture the last ones over here. Which might actually not work that well from this perspective, because now if I do this, it's actually doing it all over the place. Okay, hold on. I retopologized this for a reason. So that I can easily hide this. Now if I go to texture paint mode, oh, I can select all of this, and now... What? This is supposed to be face masking. Face masking, yes. Why is it hiding the geometry? Hold on. Wow, I didn't know texture paint mode is actually doing that. That if you have something hidden in edit mode and you use face selection masking in texture paint mode, it will actually hide everything that's hidden as well. Wow, that's fascinating. I had no idea. Anyway, now if I paint over this, it will only affect my selection. So I have a bit more control. Hold on. This might actually end up being a lot of work. To be honest, for this case, it's actually getting really tricky to have strokes that go through the entire object. So I'm gonna turn these back on. And then I will just paint it with a regular normal fall off. Let's see. Which means some of these strokes are going to be a bit more disjointed, like they're just going to start and stop. If I look at this, I can see exactly where that happens. But let's just try to use the smear brush. Maybe I can like fix this a bit. I think it works. But that also means I don't need to use the face selection masking. Instead, I'm just going to paint regularly. Like that. Also, I wish that that if I display the UVs, it would only show the boundaries. That would maybe be a bit more helpful. And because now I can like paint on these streaks, but I can't actually see what I have here. Anyway, let me just use the smear brush to actually extend these a bit more, like that. Anyway, are there more questions? I'm kind of neglecting the chat. Did you use dynamic topology while sculpting snow? No. For rain I did, but for snow I completely used the remesher. There was never any point where the where dynamic topology would have really benefited me. So, yeah. I hope that answers your question. Let's see. I'm gonna bring back the rest of the model just to compare what I have here. Okay. One of the creative decisions I wish I could take back on this, on the hair, is this part over here. This is a bit awkward. I think it's okay, but it doesn't really make any sense. I don't know what this is meant to be. Like, this is really weird, what I did here. And maybe I can change it a bit. Can like paint over this, and let's say I like paint in like a bit of a twirl. I don't know, it's a bit awkward. I also see another question. Do you trust the autosave? No. When it comes to texture painting, absolutely not. Because it's saving the blend file, I trust that, but it's not going to save the textures. So I need to save them regularly. If I don't, nothing else will. Anyway, it's kind of worth it to go over this a bit more, especially if it's a bit more unclean with the painting, to go over it with the smear brush, especially for these streaks. It might make them a bit more blurry, but it can reduce the amount of artifacts. So now I'm just gonna jump over to this one. And I'm gonna do it a bit more rough. Like that. To be honest, I'm just gonna plug it into the diffuse. This way I can see a bit more what I'm actually doing. Now, let's smear some of these a bit. Okay, I'm gonna try to add a bit more variety to this. This is kind of working. This might just be the hair painting stream, unfortunately, but I will get to the rest. Maybe also a bit in between streams. But I mean, sometimes it also is just a bit of just working through these things. Okay. Saving the texture a bit more often. Another question, would autosave save the textures if they were embedded? Yes, I think so. And to be honest, that's a big advantage of actually using packed or like embedded textures in blend files. So maybe that is just the correct way to work for texturing in Blender, to just like always have them embedded, and then once you're done you can like save them somewhere else. But I don't know, it should just be improved. there's another question. Do you really work on a GTX 980? Is it enough? Apparently. I mean, I kind of hope that I mean, this is not my working computer. This is more the recording computer. So I just kind of hope that whatever we have in here is enough. There we go. The textures are definitely not going to look as good on the buns over here, like on the other, like, more dreadlocks. But still going to be enough. Let's see. I'm almost done now. I think this is enough for the hair. Okay, then I'll just continue with the eyebrows, to be honest, because they also still need some work. They don't need that anisotropy. I think I would like to leave them as simple as Rain's eyebrows, but that means they need to be really dark. Really quite rough, like this. With a bit less specularity, like that. Okay. I see someone has kind of low-end PC run Blender. Sure. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do with Blender. Like, there's always a case where, like, your computer cannot handle the current file or what you're working on. But there's quite a lot that you can do even on a low-end computer. Let's see. Okay. So now comes the tricky thing. I would like to get rid of this object for rendering and actually do what this needs to be on the skin. That would be amazing, but do I actually have enough references for that? Because I mean, it would be like kind of spotty, like that's the thing. Yeah. To be honest, I should at least try to use this object. So let's see. Like, I still have X symmetry on. I can like, do I have a shape key over here for adjustments? No. There we go. Copy driver. I want to have this here as well. Paste driver. So now I can do adjustments freely on this object. Without really having to worry about this messing anything else up. Or not having the original still somewhere. Okay. Okay, but I have this object. It has the same shader as the hair up here. And I just need to get sort of a similar effect. This is really tricky. But first of all, this should be its own material. There we go. Now, I'm actually going to try it with a procedural texture, but that actually might not work out that well. I would need to try. So let's try it with a Voronoi. That's a sky texture. Voronoi, please. Oh, wow. Yes. Let's see. So I'm gonna have just like something like this. Which type? Still something I can choose afterwards, but I think F1 is the nicest. And I would like to distort the vector over here. Linear light. Yeah, that's kind of distorting it a bit. And let's just pick another procedural texture, a noise. Not that much detail, but distortion. That's the important part. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just playing around with nodes right now. I don't even know if this is the right way to go. But it has somewhat of an interesting effect. Probably not exactly what I'm looking for. Does it even have the correct UV maps? Let's go to the UV editing workspace. Huh. That should be fine. Aha. What's going on over here? Oh, flip. I see a question. Can you please tell me what is particle hair? I mean, it's very much what I'm not doing right now. Particle hair is like how the name suggests, it's using particles. So it's spawning. You're essentially creating each hair as a curve that then has a profile that has actual thickness. So yeah, essentially creating real hair. So that's kind of the look that you're going for with particles. What I'm doing right here is mesh hair, so it's actually faking the look of real hair or stylizing it by I'm texturing essentially hair on top and painting it instead of actually creating or simulating real hair. But yes, let's see. What did it do? I didn't change anything. What? Okay, hold on. I think I can actually do something interesting here. That is, I mix together this kind of influence map over here, like this mask, to add or like to mix in two different texture details, so that there's the bigger detail and then the smaller one over here. It's kind of subtle, but I can also use this as an influence map where you can see the skin more. So I want to try that. Overall, it's getting a bit messy, so sorry about that. To be honest, I could also just move the whole cycles part a bit higher up. So, let's say I add this over here. I have this mask. And I want to have this as a factor to add the skin color, which at this point is kind of hard to get. Let's just pick this one as a temporary solution. Yes, let's just pick this one. Not the best, but it kind of works. Okay, now, but I need to actually use this mask, which is used for the detail of the hair. Actually use this one in here as well. So I have these two influences and I would like to mix them. There we go. that's kind of working. Just need to invert. Actually, let's put this into a color ramp. Flip this. Like that. There we go. This is where the skin should show. So this is the mask that I'm using to show the skin. Like that. Just as a rough idea. Like that. Yeah, I need to fine tweak this, but it's going in the right direction. Maybe this is a bit too detailed, but I want to try this. Really see where this is going. So now this is not just defining the detail level of the hair texture, but also like a sort of perceived transparency. Right now it's only in the color, so it doesn't look good. This also needs to be in the roughness. So let's just plug in the same over here. Looks kind of weird. Doesn't quite work. I think what I'm instead going to do is make it more stylized, like really just a gradient with just a little bit of noise, but not something this extreme. This is looking a bit weird. I think I'm gonna take this instead of already the, yeah. Oops. Let's see. Ah, wrong one. Color ramp. Are there any more comments? The hair reference That hair reference seems hard to follow. Yes, I'm going a bit off in terms of the look, because I needed to somewhat match up with what I had for rain, and that's not easy to do. Okay. There we go. A bit more of a gradient. Just gonna blur it a bit more. Save, and now let's see what this does. So this is now just a bit more like this, just a really subtle gradient. Still not subtle enough, and also just kind of looks flat. So, what did I do? Something happened. Well, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to also multiply this on the fake anisotropy, just because that maybe makes it look more like it's becoming less hair and more skin. And I need to invert this color. So now it's, I'm gonna get rid of rain. So now it's actually taking away from the anisotropy, which might make it actually look more flat now. I need to see. Yeah, this is, it's really tricky. I'm not exactly sure what I can do. This is like easy to stylize. It's its own object, very clear cut. I mean, this also still needs to be tweaked, but this is supposed to kind of fade a bit. So I'm not sure how to do that. And of course it is something that is pretty hard to stylize. Like, this is not to be an exact reference, but short hair won't catch that much light. So maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe it is as simple as just saying, like, keep it flat. Don't add too much detail. Okay, let's see. can at least add a little bit of detail to this, so that it at least still shines through. Let's kill the color for now too. Yeah, I like there to be at least a little bit of detail, so it can still have this like shine and a clear direction to it. But just a little bit of little shapes to break it up. Similar to the skin. I mean, the skin is overall not very detailed. But it still helps. Like if you zoom out, it's like relatively simple. Hold on, what's happening here? Well, that is actually these changes. I'm gonna leave them off for now. Okay, just a tiny bit of detail. That should be fine. And then let's bring back the roughness. And now this needs to be tweaked a lot because I don't want that yeah, this may be a bit too strong, but to be honest, why does it now recompile the shader? I'm just dragging a color. Come on. Okay, just a tiny bit of difference. I think this could already be pretty good. Like it certainly implies this sort of texture, this sort of material and surface. But now with the diffuse, it will look not good. Like, let's just completely skip this gradient for now. This might be fine. But I want to make the base color a bit brighter. Like this. No, not like that. I'm gonna just switch this to diffuse color, and then I can just judge the colors of all the objects a bit more in detail. So there's a little bit of variation here then, like that. But it's brighter overall. That's what I want to do. And then yeah, and then I want to use this gradient. I'm gonna plug it in here instead. And I'm going to blur this a bit more. Like that. Okay, now let's switch this again to diffuse light, diffuse color, the pass. And now I can just pipe in a brighter color that is getting closer to the skin. Kind of from bottom to top. I mean, that's kind of the effect that I want. I just wonder if I can do that on this separate object. That seems to be a bit tricky. So now if I switch back to combined, it's looking a bit weird. But it might just work. One of the things that makes it weird is that this object has such a clear thickness to it. It's like a helmet. Well, but I'm also running out of time a bit. Just save this. I'm gonna go back to the resting pose. And maybe one thing that I could try to do, let's just say I have this and this mask for extra detail, and I mix these two like this. Let's see. Kind of like this. Okay. Put this into a color ramp to define the gradient a bit more. Like that. And this is actually where I plug in a bit more subsurface scattering. It's a bit risky though. But it could imply skin a little bit better. I just need to get the skin color. Well, let's just screw it. Let's just pick this one. It's the subsurface scattering color. This might be a bit weird. But it could help blend these a bit more. Actually, I think this kind of works, at least in Eevee. Is actually, I think diffuse light is for subsurface scattering. I think that actually works. It just makes it look a bit more translucent, a bit more fleshy. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. With the eyes, I'm already pretty happy. The skin is probably just a bit too wet looking. I mean, it looks kind of real, but I can just tone it down. So there's the roughness. Kind of increasing the default roughness over here. By default, it was 0.44. But if I put it higher, actually the wrong one. Is this right? Yeah, like this. Perfect. So overall the skin of snow has more detail than rain, which I kind of like. Like you just zoom in and it has a bit more stuff going on, but you zoom out and it's kind of looking similar. But I would love to go back on to rain and just tweak her materials and textures a bit too, so they look kind of alike, so that she can get an update as well. But I would probably keep it subtle then. But yeah, the hair kind of works, I would say. So I can even keep this extra object. So yeah, and then I can just quickly go to the pose, see how it looks. So yeah, this is kind of nice. And I'm kind of out of time. This was 2 hours, even more so. And there's still some leftover to-dos, but overall I think with the skin shading, except for the palms, it works really well. The palms are super sweaty because of a problem I put in the notes, but I can fix that. Apart from that, all the shaders actually look kind of good. But because I don't even see the palms over here, what I could do is in the turntable, let's see, I can add a plane. Oops. Let's add this over here, add a material for it. I'm gonna make this kind of dark and very rough, like this. He's actually not touching the ground. That's interesting. I'm just gonna raise the ground for that. Whatever, it's fine. Just needs to be kind of temporary. This is just the default pose. Actually, let me not do that. I already have... an empty for snow to kind of control where his posed position is. So I can just move him down a little bit, like this. I'm gonna copy that Z location and put it also on this frame, like that. Perfect. Now, what did I want to do? The ground. Do shadow cutters actually work in Eevee? I don't think so. No, they don't. Okay, so what I'm instead going to do is I'm going to scale this up. Way up. Then I'm gonna go into edit mode, extrude this upwards, and then bevel this, and just, also apply the scale. And while I'm beveling it, I'm gonna increase the amount of loops over here. Then I'm gonna set it to shade smooth. And now I have a studio ground. This should be good. Yeah, this works. Except that the ground over here should always... Oh, it's not even in the turntable collection. Oh, wow. Geo ground. It should be parented to the turntable. So now, if I rotate this, the ground stays the same. Just like that. And there's actually something I forgot. The turntable is rotating and the lights are parented to it. Let's see. Oh, they are actually not. Right. So that's not great. What I want is that the lights let's just clear those keyframes. I want the lights to be parented to the turntable. But that also means that the that also means that the environment light needs to rotate at the right time. Let's see. What I could actually do is I could just move this over here. Let's just undo this and save first. There we go. Can I somehow isolate the selected channel? It's like the number one thing that I would like to do usually. Do I really need to... Do I really need to hide all of these individually? I guess I do. I also see some more comments. Hey, love all your work, sorry, love wall work, but a thing and look good animation, but I have a question on the future. Will you make a Legend of Zelda movie? Probably not. It's not likely because of copyright issues. Everything we do is open source and we can't just use someone else's IP. What are the buttons on your pen mapped to? It's just just tapping is just left click essentially. And then I have two buttons on the side. One of them is middle mouse button and the other one is the right click. So with that I can just essentially do everything in Blender with the default key map. Okay, let's just select this, Shift E, make cyclic. There we go. So now the lighting setup is actually rotating with the turntable, which is what I wanted to have. And then afterwards it keeps rotating but without the turntable. Perfect. Now I just need to do the same for the, where is it? HLP lights. I guess I just killed the animation on this thing, so So I'm gonna key it over here, and on 101, I'm gonna set it to minus 360 degrees, like that. Set it to vector, Shift E, make cyclic, and there I have it again. So now it's kind of working. So now I can send this to the render farm and it should work. Probably not for cycles yet, so I need to change that, but I can make some EV turntables, which is going to be great. Let's see. But yeah, still a bit of work left to do, but overall, this is it for this stream. There we go. So I'm still gonna work a bit more on this in between streams maybe, but there's not much left to do. It's really just about fine tweaking some of the shaders, like that palm issue. And then I need to finish the shading on the shoe, which is really just basically adding a bit of a texture for the laces, and then replacing the texture for the main part over here, the cloth part. I have a different texture already downloaded. I just need to put it on there, and then just fine tweaking some of the values a bit. Maybe I can get the hair to look even better. I need to make it look good in cycles. And maybe the clothing can also be a bit improved. Maybe I think the fingertips are shiny, but the fingernails are rough, which makes no sense. So I just need to tweak some of this a bit. And then afterwards, I can render out entire turntables of this, which is then going to give me a good indication if any of the shaders need improvements, or if this is looking good as it is. Oh wow. Hold on. Eevee, setting the samples to 1. There we go. So yeah. Yeah, this is basically how it's supposed to look like, but then rendered in cycles. And this is then going to be good resource for fact checking this, how it looks. I'm going to make some more closer renders and comparisons with the light. There's something weird going on with the ground. Oh boy, what's happening with the ground? The scale is actually animated. Yeah, now it looks better. Okay. What else? The inner mouth needs some procedural like noise textures, but that's basically the same as before. And then in the next stream, I'm probably going to work on baking all the textures to a set of PBR textures that then can be easily used not just in Blender, but also just any other render engine, any other program. And then also presenting and rendering some final nice images and videos with not just the final materials, but also a clay turntable with just everything removed but the bump information to really show off the model. And then also wireframes, which are kind of tricky to render in Eevee and in cycles, but I'm going to show you how to do it. There's something weird going on here. I'm going to show all the animation. So I noticed a bit of a bug here. But this is basically it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next stream.